Okay, so let's start with a few words about me. I'm a senior software engineer at Smart Recruiters, and in my free time, I'm an open source contributor. You can find my GitHub profile here, and if you want any more details, you can find my LinkedIn profile there. And if you have any questions, then there is my email address. So I want to tell you about Shipkit, which is a new continuous delivery toolkit used in Mockito. First, I will tell you about the problems with continuous delivery that Mockito team had in the beginnings. Then I will tell you about the solution that they applied, which is Shipkit. And then about Shipkit workflow and how you can use Shipkit in your own project. So Mockito was founded in 2008, and it quickly gained popularity. With popularity came a lot of people who wanted to contribute to Mockito, and they committed a lot of code. But all of this code was useless until it was released and published. And Stefan Faber, who is the founder of Mockito, strongly believed in continuous delivery, that each commit should be healthy, and if it introduces anything interesting from the client perspective, then it should be released. And for that, they needed some kind of versioning, and they used a simple version properties file, and they still do today. So whenever there was a build of artifact, version was taken from this file, and when the artifact was published, the version in this file was manually bumped by one of the contributors, usually Stepan himself. But versioning itself isn't enough. If you have so many versions after almost each commit, then you need to find a way for the users to keep track of what's changing between the versions. And Mockito team used release notes for that. This is how they look like today. So you have first you have a version number here. It is followed by a number of commits that happen between the current and the previous version. And if you click on this link, you will see the comparison on GitHub between the current and the previous version. You will see also all of the contributors, because if you want to have a strong community, then you need to mention contributors. There is also a release date and a link to bin tray where the artifact is published. And between the versions, you can see a lot of all the pull requests, titles of pull requests that were close between those versions. And at the end of this, there is a link which will redirect you to the GitHub pull request. So all of this versioning and release notes, updating this is mostly copy-paste job, but it's still a lot of places where you can make a mistake. And if you have a lot of commits at the same time, then you will have to resolve conflicts. And it is a boring manual job, so no one wants to do that. And in case of open source project, it usually means that no one does it. And there is less releases, and because of that, no continuous delivery anymore. So the solution that Mockito team applied was Mockito Resource, which was first released in 2014. And a few months ago, it was extracted into its own project and renamed to Shipkit. And to see how much work was done manually by contributors before Mockito Resource, you can see the third committer of all time in Mockito GitHub repository, which is continuous delivery drone. It did over 431 commits since 2014, and by 2014, Mockito was already a mature project. So you can imagine that a lot of this work was done manually by contributors, probably a few times that. And this continuous delivery drone basically just updates version and updates release notes, nothing more. And this is how Shipkit works. So it is always started by push to master, usually by merging a pull request. Then GitHub, through a service hook, starts the build on Travis. And Travis runs not only standard, regular Gradle tasks like build, also a few Shipkit tasks that push, bump the version, update release notes to GitHub, directly to master, and later publish artifacts to bin tray. So I prepared a simple demo of this. And since Travis is not really reliable, then I recorded a video before. And I prepared a simple project with basically just two sub-projects. There is a few Java classes. Both sub-projects have Java plugin applied, just regular Gradle project, nothing fancy. And I also created a few commits so that we can see release notes generated. And now in this movie, You can see that I created a pull request that basically contains everything that you need to run Shipkit in your own project. So there is Travis YML configuration. We will get back to the details later. So right now I will just mention these files. So there is a dependency to Shipkit. There is an applied plugin. There is a Shipkit Gradle, which is a basic configuration file that contains all the configuration that you can do on Shipkit. And there is a version properties file that I already mentioned. And now if I merge this pull request, we can see on Travis that the build was immediately started. And as I said, it first runs just a regular Gradle build to see if everything compiles and if tests are passed. And then it runs a few Shipkit tasks. Like first, it runs after release needed, as you can see here. And after release needed, checks if this release is actually needed at this time. Because as I said before, we only want to release when there is a significant change from the client perspective in the project. So you can skip releases in a few ways. You can use an environment variable. You can use a CI skip release in your commit message. And also, we check the current and the previous version, and we check if there are any significant changes. So if you, for example, just change a git ignore file or fix a test, then there is nothing new for the client, and we don't want to release it at this time. And it fails at this time, and it doesn't publish the new version. There is also a CRI release prepare task that basically does all the configuration of Git repository on Travis. So it sets a few properties like user email, username of Git, and it checks out the proper branch. And then there is a perform release task that does all this significant part of the Shipkit job. So it updates release notes, it bumps the version, and it pushes it all to master, and then uploads to Bintray. And when we go back to the repo, we can see that there was a commit generated by Shipkit. And this is basically it. Just update the release notes and version. And if you go to docs release notes, since this is in MD format, we can see it directly on GitHub in a much nicer way. You can see that we can check the pull request here. And also we can see if the artifact was really published in Bintray. And this is basically it. And now I will show you how you can configure Shipkit in your own project. So I created a few branches with all the steps that you need to do. So first step is basically just adding dependency and applying the plugin. This is quite simple. And you can see that this is on branch plugin applied. So if I go back to my repository and check out this branch, I can run Gradle tasks. And you can see that Shipkit, even without any configuration, it doesn't break your configuration phase of Gradle build. So you can still run basic tasks. And we can see an init Shipkit task here. And if we run it, then all the configuration files needed will be generated for us. So if I do git status here, you can see that Travis YML, Shipkit Gradle, and version properties were already generated for you. And I have another pull request here just for the readability. So here's a Travis YML that is generated by Shipkit. All the tasks that I already showed you. And also there is a basic Shipkit Gradle configuration file. And there's the version properties, which is based on your project version. But if you don't have any version specified in your Gradle configuration, then it will default to 001. And I have another pull request here that compares the branch with all generated files automatically by Shipkit, by this init Shipkit task, and this fully configured Shipkit branch, which I merged before. So this branch contains everything that you need to run Shipkit for the first time in your project. So basically, you only need to change read-only auth token. To play around with Shipkit, you only need to change that because we can't really default it. Like, for example, this property is taken from your Git remote origin. And about bin tray, Shipkit provides you with a playground bin tray repository where you can just play around, publish jars without really creating any bin tray account. So about our future, we want to have this is only version 1.0, so it's ready to use, but it's not fully documented, and we have a lot of features in the future to do. So we want to have a really simple, basic, just like Mockito project that is opinionated, not dogmatic, so it provides you with some smart defaults, but also allows you to configure it any way you want. The most important feature that we are working on is release notes templating, so that you can format your release notes in any way you want. We want to also not to be limited to services like GitHub Bintrate Travis. We want to be able to allow you to publish to Maven Central, and also we want to create end-to-end tests. So if you are an open source project owner and you want to be an early adopter, we want to, before every Shipkit release, we want to run this end-to-end tests on the clone of your repository and see if it works as expected. And if it is, then we would release Shipkit and provide you with a pull request that you can merge with updated Shipkit version. So the project was started a few months ago, and we are growing pretty quickly. Right now we have about 50 commits a week, and we have 5 contributors with over 40 commits. But there's a lot of work to be done, and you can learn a lot from the guy like Stefan Faber, who is founder of Mockito and now founder of Shipkit. So if you are interested in open source contributions, then come and join us. Are there any questions? So the question is, what criteria uses a search release needed task? So right now it compares sources jar, and it also compares POMs of the previous version and the current one, and it checks if there are any differences. So if there are, then we release, and if not, then we assume that release is not needed at the moment. Yeah, right now we automatically update the version number, bump it, but we only, at the moment, we use semantic version only, and we only update the patch part of it, so the last one. Not at the moment, but as I said, so the question is if it works only with Travis. Right now, yes, it only works with Travis, but we don't want to be limited to Travis, so we want to allow to use also other services in the future. Okay, thank you. At the moment, it is most suitable for the open source library project, but we are planning to support also other kinds of applications in the future. Okay, thank you.